I'm just in a section. If I keep talking about what I've been reading lately, then it's going to get awful redundant because I was reading those sections that we talk about all
Hmm.
the time. I just got through reading about Elijah and the prophets of Baal and him going into the cave and getting reacquainted with the
Yeah.
Lord. And there was one interesting thing that happened, though. And we've talked about this several times. He goes into the cave. Um, Mighty miracles, all the show, Lord done shown himself strong. Episode or two ago, we were talking about, or I was talking about, because that's one where you were on vacation. I was talking about some of this younger crew that's coming up and was talking about, we need to make sure that as more seasoned believers, we're not being the old prophet,
Yeah.
sabotaging the younger prophet, because we've been the younger man of God who's been on the mission. He's trying to be faithful only to have people that were more seasoned try and hijack it, saying this is the right way to do it, wanting to be part of it. And you know what? There's times where more seasoned people were part. Matter of fact, they were the ones discipling us. We didn't
Mhm.
know it at the time. The ones that we're going to disciple you was about as full of crap as could be. They wanted to be part of something. This is probably a bad term to use, but I want to use it anyway. I think there's an element of spiritual impotence that a lot of folks have when they feel like they're no longer part of something. And I'm getting stereotypical here. I'm not saying this about any one person, but you have this stereotype of the cranky old man yelling at the kids to get off his lawn, and the only reason he cares about that lawn is because he can't harass mama no more. Things don't work like they used to. 20 years ago, he was like, well, that lawn could wait, baby. Now the only thing he can pour himself into is that stupid lawn. I think if we're not careful, we can reach a point. It takes you by surprise. If we keep getting caught in the same old routine, if we keep thinking that God's going to do it this way, or or it has to be along a certain set of protocols, all you have to do is look at creation. You can see that God has in order to the universe. He's created things by a design. Therefore, there are laws, there are parameters. So it's not without laws and parameters when we're walking according to the will of God. But a lot of times it's a lot broader. And what we don't know is that I heard a minister give this message. He said some laws are more powerful than others. If the right situation is in effect, and he's the dude had flown a plane, and he goes, the law of gravity is going to keep everything on the ground that's not lighter than air. He said, the law of gravity is you get in an airplane, it's going to stay on the ground. However, if you get it going fast enough with the proper aerodynamics and you know what you're doing, there's a law called lift. And therefore, speed and lift will be greater than the law of gravity. And this is kind of like law and grace to me because the law is always in effect. Grace doesn't negate the law. Grace enables you to be empowered to work, and really you're flying. Now, if you ever start stepping out of grace, man, that law is kicking right back in. Hopefully, you land softly because if that engine stops working in that plane, bad things can happen.
I was just looking up some stuff in the movie Act of Valor. It was about a Navy SEAL. The lead character there was Lieutenant Ingalls. In the beginning, this guy is narrating. He's narrating a letter to his son. He's reading a letter to his son. We would learn at the end of the movie this letter is to be delivered to his son because he died. Anyway, he's writing a letter to his son, and it includes this poem from Tecumseh. But in the beginning of the letter, I think kind of leads or lends some credence to what we're talking about here. It says, before my father died, he said the worst thing about growing old was that other men stopped seeing you as dangerous, how being dangerous was sacred and a badge of honor. I think there's some of that that goes on in all of us, not just warriors, but for men in general. And I think what he's referring there is uh, we start to lose our sense of purpose. And
Ooh,
once,
that's a good way of putting it right there.
yeah, once we start to sense that our purpose is gone, we become very, 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 very restless. I think a better way to put it is we no longer have peace.
Mm.
Um, as you was talking a while ago about the old man on the porch and kind of referencing Gran Torino and Clint Eastwood there a little bit maybe get off my lawn, things of that sort.
Well, he
I
was a
think
bad dude, though.
yeah, he was a bad dude. I think some of that kind of spills over into ministry as well as we get older, bouncing from one ministry to the next, and we see the younger generation stepping up and coming into their own. It can be very, very easy to come to a point where we no longer feel that we have a purpose. We've been in the ministry 30, 40 years. Um, Things are changing. God's not changed. The Bible's not changing. Things of that, but um, society's changing. Everything, the world around us is changing, and everything, and that can cause that sense of loss of purpose in some of us. And if we're not careful, that we will start to lose peace. Now, the place we find peace truly is in the Lord. Um, so we have to find purpose in the Lord
Hmm.
to keep from being that old crotchety man, that old prophet who's deceiving the young prophet, sending them out on those bogus errands and stuff like that. In order to keep from doing that, it's very important to stay grounded and rooted in God's word, not just in his word alone, because God's word alone won't save you. You have to have the relationship along
Hmm.
with it. So you have to stay rooted in that relationship with Jesus and listen to and hear his voice constantly, or else you'll drift. You'll drift around and feel lost and without purpose. So that's a bad place to be.
One of the things I like about it with the Elijah narrative, there's a remedy to that. Uh,
Right.
he has to get recharged, but he gets a commission once he experiences those three previous moves of God. You had the mighty wind, the mighty wind, you know. Well, that's what parted the Red Sea.
Mm-hmm.
You had the fire. That's what happened when you had Nadab and Abiru uh, offered the strange fire.
Mm-hmm.
Did that, and then you had the rebellion of Korah. That was the earthquake that came about and swallowed Korah, and then the other that was Nathan and Abiram. And I might have got the names mixed up, but you had three previous moves of God. You're recognizing that what was working is not what God's doing now, what was working before. And
Mm-hmm.
so you get reacquainted, but then the Lord gives them a mission. Here's your new mission. And the mission is to anoint and appoint.
Yeah.
And there's a king of Syria that he's going to anoint, which he actually never does. He's supposed to anoint Israel, the new king of Israel, and then he's supposed to anoint Elisha to be his replacement.